What are you talking about? I can't see anybody.
What? Can't see anybody?
Yeah, there is no character in the screen.
There's a reason why he's working with me. It's his stand-up comic career that didn't take off.
It was awful.
Marvel Rivals is freaking awesome! And so is this interface. You could say it's unrivaled. Why didn't you laugh, Fernando, behind the camera? That was so funny. There you go. That's why I pay you. I'm Lucas Oliveira, the creative director at Loreworx, a gaming startup. And I analyze interfaces. It's what I do. And sometimes I make a change or two in hopes that a developer might make a change or two. Anyway, let's get started. Man, this UI is visually stunning. It's probably one of my all-time favorites. Every screen is just oozing with creativity. Well, almost every screen. This was a fun redesign project because there are 3 nerd topics that I want to get into with Marvel Rivals that I think are interesting. Because I'm a nerd. The first one is seasonal content. Seasons are an important retention layer, especially in live service games. That's why every single freaking one of them has seasons. It makes veteran players want to come back to check out the new stuff. But what I find interesting is how seasonal content bleeds into game design. Case in point, you have this bloody red theme with bats and vampires and shit in Marvel Rivals, but how does that change the game? You have your mandatory characters and unlockables. There's a map with a red sky, but when it comes to interface, you get a few really cool screens. Check out the season category in the navigation bar. The battle pass screen looks pretty cool, but my favorite is the event screen. This newspaper themed presentation is freaking awesome. So, 3 links in the season navigation submenu, 2 of those are screens that look awesome. That means that the mission screen is gonna blow my freaking mind. What happened here? This is the look of a Marvel Rivals screen that got little to no attention. These light gray boxes on a darker but still light gray background with a triangle pattern. I don't know about you, but it makes no sense to me that the mission screen got the default look treatment. After all, it's inside the season navigation sub-menu. We have to fix this. And because I love it so much, I'm giving it the newspaper look. I wonder if half the Marvel Rivals player base ever held a newspaper. You know, they make pretty great potty pads for your pet. Anyway, there used to be a thing in a newspaper called the Classifieds. People would publish job openings and offer services in there, and it was always fun reading them because there was some weird shit in there. So that's what I'm going for here.
On your left.
We have your daily missions and challenges. I made a number of changes to these bars. The original design uses blue as an accent color, which makes sense for those default gray looking screens, but not for seasonal screens. Orange matches the aesthetic a lot better. The original, I think, made terrible use of space, with the majority of the mission bar being dead space. I fixed this by making the bars narrower, increasing the size of the reward sprite on the right, putting the countdown timer inside its own bar, and making the progress bar, the only visual aspect of this whole thing, a lot thicker, while still having the space for at least 2 lines of text here, though you could probably fit 3. You see, your eyes are drawn to the progress bars in this screen, but they're so thin in the original design that you're tricked into thinking they're not important, when they're the most important UI element here. And the last little UI change here was the countdown icon. The original looks too similar to the mission icon. After all, they're both timers. Making one blue and the other one light gray is just not enough of a distinction. So to fix this tiny little issue that only UI geeks like me will ever care about, I had to turn the presentation of the entire time element into this bar. Now it looks as different as possible while still using the timer icon. So, on the left side, I managed to present the same amount of information as the original design while using less real estate, which means I got to have a little fun with the rest of the screen. And there's nothing developers love more than these little opportunities, and I'm no freaking different. So I created 2 classified ads in which 2 perfectly ordinary citizens are saying, I have a mission for you. It's the mission screen. Makes sense, right? Anyway, in the first one, Fernando here needs a superhero to get rid of the bat family that's in his toilet. And then there's this dude who needs help finding his crypto wallet. I hope you can't relate. And there you have it. Now there's cohesion between the event screens and the mission screen. It really is just beautiful. And I've talked about this in other videos that we've done, that as a UI designer, when you think of a screen, a game screen, that you can then use that same layout in several other screens, you get happy, you get giddy as a UI designer, because you're thinking, wow, this is going to cut so much of my work. I can use this same layout in several other screens. But then if you do that a lot, then you end up with a boring UI, because every game screen is it's like the same game screen. There's no creativity. This game is the opposite of that. One other thing, it's a very small complaint that I have, and it's a general complaint. We live in a society today, when it comes to UX and interface stuff, where you're either a dark mode user or a light mode user. I am a dark mode user. I don't like white light in my eyes when I'm using anything, any kind of screen. It's just jarring when you go from a darker screen to a lighter screen. And that is just like a tiny nitpick that I have, because it's impactful and it bothers me. It hurts my eyes a little bit. When you have game screens, you're usually thinking, are we going dark or are we going light? Which one is it? And let's keep it that way throughout the entire game. All right, so the second nerd talk I want to get into is MVPs in gaming. That's minimum viable product, not most valuable quarterback. I like trying to find out what the developers prioritized for launch and what they didn't. It's a cool exercise. And live service games like Marvel Rivals tend to make this distinction clearer than premium games. Take the faction system, basically a guild or a clan. The framework is clearly here, but the feature was clearly not a priority for launch. It's kind of intentionally buried. But I have no doubt this will get a lot of attention from the team in the near future. But anyway, the faction screens really caught my eye because of this customized emblem button. Because I love these things. I've spent hundreds of hours customizing emblems and team uniforms and creating clubs back in the early 2000s when EA Sports didn't suck. So obviously I was a little disappointed when I saw this. I mean, I get it, it's the MVP thing. But the good news is, designing these customization screens is really freaking fun. So I redesigned the customized emblem screen as if it had been prioritized for launch. The way this works is the game randomly generates an emblem in the create faction screen. That way you have something to customize in here. It serves as a starting point. You can then change the shape, the pattern, in up to 2 figures. Why only 2 figures? Because it's an online game. If this was single player, you could have as many layers as you want. But in an online game, you run the risk of players getting a little too creative, so you need to guard against some things. You can't have 2 letters, for example, because you'll end up with 1,000 factions with emblems that say "F you," amongst other things. The last button here on the left flips the order of the 2 figure layers. Now, you could finish here and just go with the default placements, or you can get really specific in the editor screens. Here you can change the color, scale, position, and rotation of each element in your emblem. In this case, it's figure B. You can use the buttons on the right for finer adjustments, or you can move the element itself in the center. You can turn on grid view and snapping here to help you out. Some elements may have more than a single color, so that's why there are arrows on the left side. The advanced button on the bottom here opens a color wheel with RGB and hex values, and the last colors you picked get saved in this bottom bar. Now you might be thinking, this is all too much. You're imagining going down a list of factions and their emblems are taking forever to load. It's lagging your freaking screen and it's driving you crazy. But what's cool is this entire design becomes a single line of code. You would already have all of these image files in your installation. The game just needs to read rotation, position, color values and shit, and bam. It should be remarkably performant. It's freaking elegant, dude. And you'd hopefully end up with a faction screen without duplicate faction emblems. If you enjoy this redesigned video, consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. You'll be helping us make our own game, and we'll be forever freaking grateful. I love this interface, man. Like, they're so creative. They just went like all out. I'm also biased because they're using the shape, my favorite interface shape, which is this. It's weird that it's my favorite interface shape, but I never know the name of it. I always forget. I don't know if it's a rhombus or it's the rectangle that is tilted like that. I use it in my game, and I'm seeing so many games use it now because it's this modern, sleek look, you know, and I'm very biased when I see it. I go like, yeah, I use that too. But it's really well done, man. Like every freaking screen is different. It's so fresh. It's so cool. Like different looking, you know? So one thing in this setting screen, which I think is well done, one thing that I would add is a search bar. It would be so easy to implement here because if you look at the settings, they are all presented very similarly. It's one bar. What the search bar would do is it would just create a square like this, a panel like this, and then it would just show the bar of the thing that you searched. So it would be so easy for you to implement, especially with a game that has so many settings like this one. This screen might be my favorite of the game. I love the quarter wheel thing. I freaking love it.
Captain agrees.
Yes, he definitely agree. He should agree with me. This is where they didn't spend much of the budget, the UI budget, and that's all right because obviously it's the screens that you know are not going to be used that often, and you can obviously change these screens in the future. But look at the achievement screen. I mean, this is as simple as it gets, which is all right. You need to do these things. You need to think, where can I devote my time? We didn't have this this problem in the game that we're making because I finished the interface a long time ago, and there was plenty of time to think of every single screen because we still need money. Okay, before I get into the third nerd talk, I want to propose two quick quality of life features. This game has a lot of different rewards and progression systems, but to unlock or claim some of these rewards, you have to dig through a bunch of different screens. Why not have a little rewards icon on the top bar? It would get that lightning bolt notification badge when you have rewards that you can claim, and clicking it would open the side panel that I designed to look like the friends panel. Listed here would be the rewards that are just waiting for you. Some you can claim straight from the panel, but with others you're taken to their screens if you click on the arrow here or on the bars. And speaking of progression systems, let me take you to the hero screen. You get proficiency ranks in each of these characters, but you have to go to their individual screens to check your progress. I think that information should be on the hero screen for quick reference. That's literally the purpose of this screen, is for referencing the roster of characters the game has. If I could quickly see the proficiency progress that I have in each character, I might pick a different hero to play with because I know I'm close to unlocking something. So I added the proficiency ranks to the hero cards, and I shaded their backgrounds to represent your progress in each rank. Now, bars would make for a clearer presentation here, but I tried that first and I couldn't make them not look like shit, so what you gonna do? The shading on the rank badges might not make your progress super obvious, but that's not the goal here. If you want to see exactly how many points you need, you can still check the individual hero screen. But now let's finish up with our third nerd talk. Interface animations. You could say it's the elephant in the room in what is otherwise a masterful UI. UI animation can really add to the experience, or it can add to your stress levels. And Marvel Rivals goes hard on animation, which I totally get, by the way. If my UI animations were half this good, I'd fucking animate everything. But NetEase got a little carried away here. So I want to end this redesign video by proposing two little changes. Players don't need or want to see the same character animations every single time they open their screens. I think the game needs to create a user file. Have it save locally. When I watch the intro animation for Captain America, change the 0 in the file to a 1 or the false flag to true or whatever, and that'll then tell the game that I've seen the intro and just never play it again. Auto skip it for me and just give me the damn screen so I can get on with my business. But add the play intro or play cutscene button to the screen so I can manually trigger the thing in the future, in case I want to show it to my parents or something. Do this for every long interface animation that players see a bunch of times. Because pressing space to skip is great and all, but I feel like my keyboards are gonna sue me for abuse if I play for a few more months. And you'd still get a cool animation when you see cool stuff for the first time with this user file, which is what matters. Now, the last change is more of a designer nitpick. You know that seizure warning screen that you can't skip after you launch the game? I really take that crap seriously, and it bugs me a tiny bit when I see something in the interface that might cause a seizure, even if the chances of it happening are minuscule. I just wouldn't like that in my conscience. And it's not hard to notice these things. Pokemon showed everyone what not to do all the way back in 1997 when 600 kids ended in the hospital. Rapid color changes in the background are simply uncomfortable. It's a similar feeling you get when someone takes your picture with the flash on. In games, the intensity is lower, but the frequency is higher. When you hover over a hero card in the hero screen, you get a quick flash of yellow in the background, followed by a really cool animation in the card itself. And if you're like me and you want to see all of these little card animations, you'll be flashing yellow at your eyeballs over and over. Now you might be thinking, that doesn't bother me. You're just dumb. No, I'm a designer. It's similar but different. And if the game removed the flashy yellow frames, you probably wouldn't miss them. This isn't the only example of an animation causing a bit of discomfort in the eyes, but I don't want this video to be longer than it should be, nor do I want to be too critical when in reality, this UI is nothing short of f***ing stunning. This game is printing money, as it should be. It's so good, this live service done well. Live service is not dead, people. Just bad live service is dead. If you like this video, click this other video because YouTube thinks you're gonna love it and YouTube is always right. And remember that fun is business, and if you drink, what character should they play if they drink?
That's actually a good question.